The Certainty Principle by David Light. Chapter 10, Ideas for Identity, Sections 10.3 and 10.4. Self. Quote, "There comes a time when every good man must wear a mask," unquote, from the Lone Ranger. Where is myself? Precisely where is it located? What does it look like? What is its weight and volume? I can identify the location of my heart, my brain, my liver, but not myself, not my identity. Because self, per se, does not exist. Adherence to selves, selfishness, self-image, self-esteem, self-consciousness, etc., are versions of the brain's enthrallment with trying to label and conceptualize its own function in the same manner as it habitually pigeonholes everything else. In an endless cycle of identity seeking, identity is the brain's masturbation. Whether the result of such enthrallment is inflation, I'm great, or deprecation, I suck, the myopic perspective over time is isolating. The effect on reasoning is distortion. At its worst, it leaves me incapable of unbiased or even rational decision-making. The brain's novelty-seeking need to habituate, i.e., to regulate common experiences and sensory input into the background, also applies to the identity illusion. As we mature, our brains adopt a particular identity as real. It habituates that identity and seeks data that reinforces it. Facebook leverages such identity-seeking vanity. Casual identity is benign enough, but as identity begins to dominate, even enthrall my thinking, it enables a compulsive attachment to identity that becomes addictive and destructive. Addiction to identity, to the externally focused definition of self, can't end well because external conditions will always fall short of the expectations of an inflated identity and reinforce the expectations of the victim identity. The key to certainty is not abandoning identity. It is learning that identity is an illusion, a game. What is myself? There is none. 10.4, Identity Cold Turkey. Escaping identity addiction is an act of willpower, but there is a trick. Simply put, it is developing the mindset that identity is irrational, not because there are no answers to be found, but because fundamentally there is no searcher to be found. Identity is the brain's pattern recognition logic trying to create a pattern image story of its own pattern recognition system. Like holding a camera up to a monitor, the result is feedback. Such identity-seeking feedback loops are accompanied by emotional hooks such as righteousness, pride, fear, regret, etc. These are the juice that reinforces the process as meaningful. Depression is an example of entrapment in such a negative loop, but grandiosity is a different flavor of the same poison. The echo chamber of identity reinforcement can become comfortable, if not neurotic, place to hide from reality. Whether such emotional juicing is positive or negative is secondary to the impact of the illusion, which is reliably disappointing. Recognizing that there's no there with respect to self, with respect to identity, is a simple first step. But acquiring the skills to check habitual attachment to the illusion of self takes work. This hard work overcomes the addiction to a lifetime of identity-driven emotional fixes. Again, we experience Schadenfreude, the joy experienced in another's misfortune, Van Dyck and von Königsbergen, 2011. It is pure identity-enhancing emotional brain play that inhibits the feeling of compassion, that uncomfortable but natural human, perhaps even animal, response to suffering. In contrast, the joy experienced in unconditional love of a child, for example, like compassion, is selfless. Identity-based emotionality begins evaporating once the illusion of identity is exposed and debunked.